months.
Yeah.
So guest today canceled. We're hoping that he's gonna be fine and everything's gonna get ironed out. Just the three of us tonight, which is actually okay because I have a boatload of stuff I want to talk about, and we'll just push him to later in the year if we can. We're pretty much booked up.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. I talked to a bunch of people lately, a bunch of good people, hardworking people lately, people that we know that are starting these charities. It's kind of wild when I was texting you guys on, I don't know, last Wednesday or Thursday. I had gone on my Nipsey Hussle interview kick, which seems to happen every so often.
It's a good cycle.
Yeah, between me and Corey, I don't know how much of his stuff that you watch, Colin, but the T-shirt documentary, the marathon clothing documentary is like a staple. I probably watch that, I don't know, every 6 or 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Just because I appreciate it so much. But, man, I swear, dude, I can, like, catch myself tearing up, like, when I watch some of these videos. I miss them that much. I've never been so interested in what somebody had to say. And
Who is this?
Nipsey Hussle, the rapper who died.
He did a bunch of interviews.
Much more than a rapper.
I know.
Yeah,
I know. Who he is, yeah.
I mean, his business plan is strikingly similar to ours. He just kind of laid it out. I mean, there's a lot. This is not going to be the Nipsey episode, but I was watching this interview after I had talked to a lot of people and booked all these shows coming up, and he did an interview with Gary Vee where he was saying that he thought that there was going to be an emotional evolution in people because we've evolved through technology so quickly that we haven't quite caught up as people yet. And I lived it last week when I talked to all these people that we're going to talk about today, because I see everybody opening these nonprofits, doing this charity work, supporting us, whatever. I'm just like really proud that we kind of got on this this wave early. Yeah. And we've already integrated that into our business because it does honestly seem to be the way things are going to go from here on out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Plus, let me just include, I can't believe that you were hating on Big Sean. Because my man was just shouting out Nipsey left and right on his last album.
Yeah, for clout, bro, because he's corny.
No, man. Nah, you got to listen to that stuff.
Sweezy agrees. You hear him? You
got to listen to that stuff, bro. What's the line I tweeted? He said, if you're hating, that's just self-reflection, basically, bro. So you gotta get in there and
maybe I hate myself because I'm corny.
That's what I'm saying, man. You
gotta
get in touch with yourself. You need to start listening to some of those dreams more.
I did try to listen to that album when I was at the gym. It's just not for me, bro.
I don't really think it's a gym album. It's more of a drive and cruise album.
Okay, that's fair.
But
different situation.
Anyways, I do dig you completely. I think I wouldn't, I don't think we're doing anything new here, but I think that the way that we spearheaded the circumstances and the way that we approach things is kind of going to become, I hate the phrase new normal, but just
You're right.
with the online access and everything else. And Gary Vee has something that he says where he wants to make like being a good person the new type of rock star. And that's kind of been my approach since day one. Yeah. Like, why not make fundraising and hashtag for a good cause like more accessible to people? I think people just look at fundraising like it's some type of mundane, drawn out, like, oh my, I get dragged to this and that or whatever. And it's like, it can and should be the exact opposite of that. It should be a good time, I mean, it's kind of, it's a little bit morbid, but it's the way that I look at funerals. Like, I've never understood mourning someone's death. You might as well just celebrate their life. So why put
They're
together
expensive.
something? Well, yeah, right,
Need a lot
true.
of kegs.
That too. But just the concept of it. Like, all of this stuff doesn't have to be like some uppity white collar type of, like hors d'oeuvres and shit like that. Like raising funds for all these fashionable causes. Like, I wanted to get into the nitty gritty and show out for some local charities that don't have a lot of exposure on their own, that type of thing, and then also make it accessible to our type of demographic, which is people that like to go out and have a good time. It's like when we did Pedal the Cause, every person I saw riding a bike that day that wasn't wearing a Pedal the Cause shirt, I was just kind of baffled. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, all of these people, you know what I'm saying? All of these people they're riding a bike anyway, so they just could be raising awareness for a good cause.
Well, I was one of the people riding a bike without a jersey because I didn't sign up in time. So
yeah, well, I feel what you're
I didn't ride
saying.
with the
But
jersey
there was a
either.
lot of people asking us like what we were riding for. And I was,
really?
Yeah, and I was because
you
we
were
rode in a
rocking
group
shirt.
and we all had the
Dude,
shirts
you
on.
had the shorts with the butt pads and everything.
Oh hell
bro.
yeah! Let me tell you something.
killed it.
I
That butt pad was
overestimated.
probably awesome.
I did overestimate it on the butt pad though. My seat was basically plastic, so that was probably the toughest part about that Century ride. That
100 miles,
I
bro.
was
You did it.
Butt not
feeling
hurt?
it, bro.
I was cool, man. Actually, I was kind of surprised at how easy 40 miles was. The only thing thing was the last 15 miles was just boring.
You just
Yeah.
kind
I
of get
just
in the
kinda quit
zone.
having
You just
fun.
kind of get in the lot.
Definitely.
And it was
click in.
it was a perfect day for Pedal the Cause, and that's one of the things that I wanted to talk about today. So they're raising money all the way through the 31st.
Yeah, I just left my donation thing open. I've still been getting drops in there,
Oh,
which
have
is
you?
clutch. Yeah.
Are you? Yeah, good. I blew up people a lot on social media, so I kind of said like, hey, it's still going to be available. I'm going to quit blowing you guys up.
Yeah, you'll
But
get
then
over that.
She's going to come in December. And do
Corey?
a Pedal the Cause. Yep, do a Pedal the Cause wrap up, which would be cool.
Very cool.
Little follow up because there's a lot of things up in the air when we talked. Like she definitely had a plan, but I'd like to see how that worked out for her with the virtual event. There was a ton of people out for Pedal the Cause. Forest
Yeah.
Park. I went to every park on that day, so it was. I'd like to follow up, see what they think they could do better. Should they have to do this again? How it worked? They're gonna have a donation total. I think November 19th.
Word.
So 6 weeks.
I did
Already-
see a lot of people pedaling the cause, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah,
A
absolutely.
ton more than I thought,
Yeah.
which was really refreshing.
How
Oh,
many miles
really?
did you ride?
Yeah, 60.
60.
Yeah.
In one shot.
No, 30 and 30.
30 and 30. That's
Yeah.
the way to do it.
Yeah. And there was a ton, and I rode. We did the new, what is it, the Greenway, the
River to Pear
Greenway.
Mm-hmm.
We did that. There was a ton of people out there. On Sunday there was. Saturday not so many. And then we went out to Eureka. Did Grants Trail on Saturday morning. Then we went out to Eureka on both days, and there was people out there. And I don't know, it was that
Well,
was
it's like
awesome.
nationwide.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that aspect.
And then my doctor, our pediatrician, she was like, yeah, we do this bike race, on the weekends, and I like flipped my
Do you
lid.
ride her insurance?
I was like, blah, 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 what? No, I don't. Yeah.
Have you pitched yet?
Huh?
Have you
No,
pitched
this is
yet?
the first time I met her.
Wow.
Yeah.
First time you met your
Colin waiting
pediatrician,
for this,
bro?
the
Physician,
second
she was a
meeting.
physician assistant. I ran a
Ah,
pediatrician.
word,
Okay.
word.
But yeah, so Corey was one of the people I got to talk to. She's going to come in December. I spoke with Kayleen Archer, who's going to come October 19th. So they started turning the page. They're moving super quick. They already have a silent auction signed up for
Saw that.
the following weekend. I don't know how they pulled that off so quickly. I know that she's got some really good people working around her that have been on other charities before. So I'd like to see what their goals are. I'd like to see what they're going to be auctioning off, how they're raising money, so on and so forth, because they are
Yeah.
brand spanking new. Can't wait to have her on. November 2nd, I think we're going to do a Sober October wrap-up. So we got invited to the paintball music video shoot for My City, My Music the day
Yo.
before. Pumped for that.
Well, let me just tell you, I'm gonna be turned up on a new level after this Sober October. So that is gonna be a perfect
Yeah.
way to culminate things.
I think it will be, yeah. I'm looking forward to that. Having a goal in mind is going to help me get through this month a little bit better, I think. So that'll be a good event for us. But Sober October wrap-up, that's kind of an open slot if we want to bring somebody in. November 16th is my birthday. I'd like to bring Buddy Fund in because We Golf will be November 15th.
What if we did? This is another premise I got going for a different podcast. But what if we did like a satellite day at the?
They'll have the equipment there at paintball,
Yo,
but I think that's
that
going to
would
be
be
Kick It and
legit.
Company.
Oh, you mean like
Tweezy,
like
if
an
you wanna-
episode?
So
while we're
here's
out?
what would be even more perk if we got like a SOS like 15-minute slot just like in between games or something.
Well, we'll probably
Jump in real quick?
If what'll probably happen is Kicking and Company is going to be running the table that day, and then if we want to jump in on their show, we can.
Oh yeah.
So it sounds like we're going to be jumping in. I'm game with that.
Depending on my state, probably won't
We'll
want to
jump
air
in.
it.
We'll
but
jump
we'll
in
see.
early. It'll be all right. No, I don't know if you've watched their show, but you can go. You can hop on in any state.
Oh no, I dig.
promise you
We
that.
got a reputation to uphold for Sons of St. Louis too, you know. And I'm a,
You'll be all right. So yeah, 16th, I'd like to have Corey and Buddy Fund back on. I got to go over to Corey's anyway, pick up some donations, Buddy Fund pamphlets, stuff like that. And then I spoke with my friend Haley. She's the assistant director at St. Augustine Wellston Center. She just moved here from Boston. She's a big believer in St. Louis. Had a long conversation with her. She thinks St. Louis is going to be like the next Nashville, next Charlotte, or something that's going to see a wave of people
Really?
coming here.
How come?
I think because of cost of living, mostly. I don't. What brought her
telling you,
here
people are
was
getting scared from the coast too, man. You can only
True.
take so many hurricanes and earthquakes.
right.
That's why they're
I've-
building up Afton, you think?
I don't know if there's a direct correlation there, but maybe in the future. But really, I've kind of been thinking the same thing. I mean, so I'm reading this book, Life on the Mississippi, by Mark Twain, and it's from like the mid-1800s, I believe, to late 1800s, and it's just bizarre to read his view on St. Louis, and he's talking about how it's one of like the most notable up and coming like cosmopolitan type cities, and
I think that became Atlanta, right? Like Atlanta has all the turnpikes. You can get
Well,
anywhere
and
in the
essentially
US from
became
Atlanta.
Chicago because we decided to keep using the river rather than switch to the railroads, and Chicago took the railroad route. So that's the whole thing there. But anyways, as I was reading it, I've been thinking, you know, I mean, I've always been in love with this city. I have a love-hate relationship for surely, but there's just so much potential. Like it's you know, it's got to bust at some point, and I think we're definitely gonna have for exactly what you said. I mean, dude.
Or just people
Some
who move
places are
back
just
home,
so
man.
expensive to live, though, bro. Like it doesn't.
Yeah, sick.
Like
It's
on
not
the coast, I
sustainable.
can't fathom it.
Somebody
exactly.
was just
so.
telling me the other day that so since the pandemic, her daughter and her husband, somebody here.
What? Oh, we're good.
Her daughter and her husband moved back home from New York City. So she works for Macy's. He works for Price Waterhouse. He's an accountant, and so they moved back in. They were paying $4,500 for like a 900 square foot apartment.
Absurd. Absurd. I know. I saw it when
Bro,
my
that's
brother
smaller
lived in
than my
Seattle.
house.
I mean,
Dude,
crazy.
it's crazy.
Guys, we got overtime studio legend Miss Raina. Where you going?
Do we have a guest
There she
actually?
is.
Or what?
hey.
We do now.
What's up?
What's up? Take a
What's
seat. Can you hang
up?
out for a minute?
Yeah.
You got some time, Tweezy? Is she on?
Come on.
How we
What's up,
doing?
Sons?
How are you?
Sons of
How are
St.
you?
Louis,
How are you?
right?
Corey and Colin. This is my girl Raina right here. So
Hi, Raina.
nice to
Pleasure.
meet
I did
you.
her show Underground Flavor 2.5 weeks ago, something like that. Maybe
Yeah.
just about. So Raina's busy. If she's not cooking, she's representing tenants who are either in really bad leases they never should have gotten themselves into in the first place. They have unlivable living conditions. I know that doesn't make any sense. It's kind of redundant. What else? What am I missing? 2 other radio shows?
Yeah, so I'm a radio show host on KWRH 92.9. I aired today this morning at 10 o'clock a.m. and Fridays at 4 to 5 p.m. 92.9 KWRH.
So what do? You represent tenants who are in bad situations?
Yes, so many people rent properties that when they move in, you know, the ceiling has been painted fresh.
And
They
it's
don't-
wet.
Yeah, and it's fresh, it's wet. You don't know that there's going to be a leak until after the rain.
Yeah.
And so you can move into a property and literally not know that it's condemned or uninhabitable until a hard rain comes. It could take 4 months. And then when that hard rain comes, you start to see the brown spot appear.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when that brown spot appears, it's appearing by an electrical system. So when you see on the news all these properties blowing up, that's why they blow up.
The water trips the electric.
The
Yeah.
water's in the electric.
Yeah.
And so it's a very common problem that everybody acts like they don't know what happened. No, we do know what happened.
Yeah.
So those are the type of situations that people are paying premium and they can't get out of it because then they've signed this lease that people aren't letting them get out of. You know, they're being taken to court.
Or they
Yeah.
go ahead and evict you, and then you got that eviction on your record.
Yeah. And that
so
follows
on
you
and
around.
so forth. Yep.
Yeah.
So we had a long talk about that. What else did we talk about that day? That was
I
probably,
could talk to you
that
for
was-
a while. I have like 5 questions. Probably.
I'm literally
shoot.
dealing, I'm
Yeah.
dealing with that right now with
Yeah.
my mother as we speak.
Yeah.
So
Most
I
people
can-
are.
Yeah,
It never
You know,
I
there's
can
no
totally
color.
relate.
Underserved. So one other thing that Raina's working on as this all culminates is that she's going to turn these people into homeowners. So we
Yeah.
talked a little bit of financial literacy. We talked accessibility, maybe getting some of these records scrubbed, help people out.
That is so good because I worked for a company, a property management company, right up until the pandemic for 6 years, Deca Realty, and what I would find is some of these people were making very, very good money, you know, and I don't think they knew what to do with their money or knew that they could talk to a mortgage lender or knew how. They just need some advice from somebody that they can trust, you know, and I feel like they'd probably pay a lot less money in the long run if they could talk to a mortgage lender, sit down with somebody and learn how to get a loan or go about getting a mortgage. Probably cut their rent in half because a lot of times they're boosting this rent because they're trying to make a profit, you know. And when you rent from a company, that's definitely boosted. You know what I mean? Like a property that probably should cost $750 now is $1,000 to $1,100 or something like that. You know, I don't know. That's just something that I saw a lot. Like, you know, there was, like, for instance, one of the last guys that I showed, he was a truck driver. He made pretty good living, said like close to $100,000 a year, and he was renting a place. It was a 2-bedroom place. It was a 2-bedroom apartment.
Wouldn't it be better for somebody like that to rent, though? You're on the road all the time. Somebody's going to take care of your business for you.
Yeah, or he could be investing in or he could be paying almost half of what he was going to be paying for this. Like he was going to be living in a 4-family. Him and his daughter are going to be living in a 4-family 2-bedroom. It was really a 1+ bedroom, and it was the property was there weren't great conditions, and like the money he could have been spending on his mortgage, he could have been building equity in his house. That's how I feel. I don't know.
Decker runs good company, though. I mean,
Yeah.
they're trustworthy. We know Jack. I know
No,
Frank.
I mean, there's just a lot of these properties, a lot of the properties down on the south side, they're just
And
old.
That's
Yeah,
for Raina
they're
to
just
take
very
over.
old.
I'm probably the
Yeah.
only real estate agent that'll look at you and say, if you can find a right landlord and you're happy and your family's safe, keep
Yeah.
renting.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't want to push anybody out of a good situation. We only want to take them out of the bad ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And a lot of people do want to be homeowners, but they can't.
Yeah.
Once that court order, the court order from the judgment hits their credit report, you have the amount of the judgment. That's one thing that's going to hit them. And then the fact that it is a court order from the court. So that's two things that hits them when they are trying to apply for home ownership. And so that's the trap. They never will be able to qualify. And so if we can clearly see and show, if I show you a house was literally condemned, whether it was condemned by a building inspector, whether it was condemned because it didn't have an occupancy permit, so technically the building is considered condemned without it, real simple, and a judgment was put on that building, then, I mean, it should be pretty easy to say that judgment should be removed.
I'm sure it's probably not that easy to go back and remove that, though.
There's nothing
Yeah.
for it, and that's the
Not yet.
problem. There's no doors for it. They've kept us behind these doors, keeping us trapped, and that's what has us in poverty. And so I went and I'm been doing an experiment of having people go and actually look up condemned buildings, and so people are learning that condemned buildings do have value. So just for instance, and real quick, like the Sarah Lou Cafe, I heard that's been closed and dilapidated like that for at least 7 years. Well, if you type in the address, you'll see that the rent calculated on the building in disrepair is $1,000 a month. And so when you have value on condemned buildings, that's a problem.
Yeah.
And most of the condemned buildings have value, which means they need someone to fill that condemned value space. It's not
Incentivizing putting somebody in there.
it's not being listed for no reason
Yeah.
with a
Right.
rent price of a certain amount, and it's condemned.
Yep.
So those are the things of even showing those type of properties and them having, rent capacity of what should be paid a month
Yeah.
is that needs to be taken down. That shouldn't be. So there's a lot of different gaps that tenants fall prey to. So let's say, you seen that property, but it wasn't that picture and you was not in the state. I've had a lot of complaints from people that bought properties here and they were shown something that looked nice, a car in the driveway. They bought it. They had the little virtual tour. But when they got in the house, they found out, it wasn't
Yeah,
as
internet
virtual.
inspections aren't so thorough.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
people are being cheated, homeowner and tenant.
Yeah.
Are you
Cheating.
coming out to paintball November 1st?
November 1st. I didn't
gotta
even
come
see
out.
that.
See it?
I just learned about it, but
I
we're
saw it
in.
on Facebook. JP invited me. I just want to know if you're cooking
Where's
again
it
or
at?
not.
I will
That's really
cook.
what it comes down to.
Sunday. That's on a Sunday.
Yep. That's
Please
I
a
so.
Sunday.
think I did see that. So it's a Sunday. I'll see if they have a cook coming out. If not, I'll hit them
Are
up.
you
Fill
making
that
cabbage
void.
again with the green pepper?
I can
I
do
think her
that.
secret ingredient's a little bit of bacon grease. Correct me if I'm wrong.
It was, and that'll
Phenomenal
be here
secret
this
ingredient.
weekend
Oh.
for the Illuminati Fest. So
Oh
I
yeah.
will-
Do you have an event? Is that this weekend?
That
here?
is this
You want to
weekend.
pitch that here?
So yes, it's been changed. I think the proper name now is Illuminati Fest. So that's going to go down Saturday and Sunday from noon until I believe 8. So we're inviting vendors and live entertainment. Of course, I'll be doing a little bit of speaking, and so just bringing the community together to heal. And we have a beautiful piece of artwork that we just brought over here. So we're going to have that assembled as well for the weekend,
That's
Is
awesome.
that the
Sweet.
10th and 11th?
the 10th and the 11th.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be beautiful.
Sure.
Yeah, that sounds phenomenal. I'm gonna have to speak to you on the side too. I
Please
got
do.
literally that exact situation going with my mother.
Most people do. And, there was a movement, of course, we all know that went, just viral and national. And because I represent so many people of so many different colors and nationalities, and I couldn't get into the movement because I'm like, what do I do with all my other people? I represent everybody.
Yeah.
everybody's a tenant.
Right,
Like it's a
right.
portal of life. Unless
Yeah.
you got so much money, you're gonna be a tenant.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Or
And
at
yeah,
least
it's not just
everybody in
one
one
race
stage.
that's lower income,
Yeah.
you know, so
Yeah. So in my world, I have so many people going through tragedies, and we're all the same.
Yeah.
And we all need help. And so to be divided on the issue of economics is cuckoo for us because
Yep.
we're getting beat already.
right.
So this is part of coming together, and you can help people who are homeless because if a person's been evicted out of something, they say, "Hey, I was complaining." Well, I'll send them back to the courthouse, pull their records, and if we can go back and see the house was condemned. Boom, let's take
Yeah.
that record off their judgment and see what we can do about the homeless person now. Simple.
And it's like simple things that people don't realize, like documenting. You know, like my mother didn't understand, okay, every time I make a request for some type of maintenance, I need to officially document that. So they took advantage of her in that aspect. And then now she's been sick for a while. And so they've been basically just bullying her, you know, and refusing to fix any of her problems. And then finally that got to a point where I had to intervene. And it's just crazy how quickly somebody in that situation will change their tone when they realize that they're dealing with somebody who knows what they're talking about, you know. I stepped in and had about a 5-minute conversation. I dropped a couple legal terms, and I just said, you know, I brought up dilapidated, you know. I brought up maintenance request, you know, and then as soon as that, you know, they just changed their tone that quick. Well, what do we need to get done? And I thought, man, I wonder how many people, you know, who are having
Yeah.
similar situations, because it's not the first time I've dealt with a slumlord personally, but it was the first time that, you know, I had to step in for my mother and intervene. And I just thought, damn, like, to put it bluntly, it's kind of refreshing to deal with that. Horrible's a heavy word, but just bad people, honestly. You know, like when I was talking to them, a part came up where they said, okay, well, you know, because they know my mother's sick. She's got stage 4 cancer, and she's currently the she's got sole custody of my little cousin for the time being. So they knew that my mother needed the house to have my little cousin be in school in that district. And then they knew that my mother couldn't defend herself because she's going through all these treatments. And so they tried bringing up, well, we never said you could let the little one stay here. And then they tried bringing up, okay, if we fix all these things that you're requesting, we're going to have to relocate you in the meantime. And so I said, okay, well, we just need to make sure we have alternative accommodations. And the lady's jaw kind of hit the floor, you know, and she's like, what do you mean? You think I'm responsible for your mother when we have to fix it? And I was like, yeah, that's and then I stepped back and I thought, man, how many people has she punked out like this,
Yeah.
you know, like just who don't know any better? My mother for the past decade included. It broke my heart because I was like, damn, this lady's just been bullying my mom this whole time, and I had no idea. So finally, you know, just stepped up and said something. But that is crazy. Like that conversation happened last week, and then you just walked in talking about all the same stuff. Like that's pretty gnarly.
And it's
that's a cause
real.
I'd like to get behind as well. Yeah, absolutely.
And a lot of times you'll be amazed that the leasing agents, they don't have, I'm not saying that if you have a degree, you can degrade someone, but we're talking about people that, you know, just high school diplomas and I mean, nothing of authority, nothing of education, nothing to give you the feeling that you have you're on an echelon to even talk down to someone. We're
Exactly.
talking everyday people that take their positions and run beyond.
Oh,
Yep, exactly, right. And then know that maybe they got a little bit of backing, maybe they got a little bit of, you know, legal counsel or whatever to advise, and then they just think that the other person, you know, won't know better and won't, you know, question anything. And
And
that's,
they're right.
Yeah, exactly.
And they got
right.
the power of your paperwork too.
Mm-hmm.
So I just did a case in Springfield real quick. It was my son's case. So I gave him benefit of the doubt, you know, when he said I pay my bills. But it goes beyond that. You know, if I hear I pay my bills every month and it needs to be a lump sum of money on this ledger or payment receipts. Well, long story short, I finally got to look and he was paying. But between March and April, he was $240 delinquent, but he was paid in full in March. So I went through the ledger and I noticed between April 1st and April 2nd, there was 2 charges of April 16th inserted in between the April 1st and the April 2nd. So these leasing agents were literally inserting extra fees to make my son,
Maintenance fees and stuff.
yep, to make him be late, a vacant recovery fee or something.
Yeah.
Ain't nothing vacant, ain't
Yeah.
nothing recovered.
Something super vague.
Yeah.
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 And so, but to see them actually put these dates in between the 1st and the 2nd was deliberate. And so to watch people that have money, because after going through his paperwork, he started complaining. you know, about his bills being excess. Well, they were excess because of all the extra fees they were sticking in. So the more he complained, the more fees they just kept sticking on to him. And so it just blows my mind how tough people can be.
Yeah.
So tough behind a phone or a computer screen.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
That you would never do this type of stuff in people's face.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what it's done. It's allowed all these tough people behind the screens to just go ham on the public
Yeah.
and society.
Yeah. And then put them in a place where it's almost, you know, sometimes you just can't recover because by the time you know better, you know, what can you really do about it? Unless you know to advise somebody who, you know, goes back. Because, I mean, think about how many people be in that situation and they could review everything and never even find those little hidden fees.
I'll tell you what. I looked at that ledger. I've seen that ledger. It's tough to make sense of, and at first glance, it makes no sense. You're like, wait, this date is where
Right.
this is supposed to be. It was in columns
It's by design.
on
Intentionally
paper,
confusing.
designed that
but
way.
not
Right.
for real. It wasn't a usable chart of payments or reductions, missed payments, anything. It just was kind of jumbled up, and it looked like a standard Word document to anybody else. So especially if you were not financially literate or completely illiterate, you wouldn't have a chance. I mean,
Right.
I looked at it, and it took me a full 60 seconds. Raina was sitting in this seat, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm looking at here.
Yeah,
I don't
well,
get it.
exactly right. Unless you're well versed in it. See, I'll keep my long story short as well. But with my mother's scenario, when it finally came to a head, I had just gotten her out of a very invasive brain surgery, and that same day, the first thing she had to say when I picked her up from the hospital was handing me the phone and had tears in her eyes and showed me like 6 text messages in a row from the landlord saying, if you don't pay by this date, then there's going to be this fee and $5 per day after blah, blah, blah. And then finally, that's when I had enough. And I said, like, you know, this is the last thing you need to be dealing with right now. But also, let's have them show us some legal documentation that states this. And it took them about 2 weeks to get back to me. And when they finally did, I said, you know, I just want to see the lease. And they kept saying, we can get it to you, blah, blah, we don't have. And then finally they said, we haven't had a lease with your mother since 2009. And I looked at my mom, I'm like, you know, this is absurd that you're dealing with any of this. You know, like you are in full control here as far as we're concerned. And, you know, everything had been paid on time and everything else. I said, now we're getting to a point where this is, you know, coming up on harassment for you. And then finally, when I threw some terms around like that back at him and, you know, again said, well, we've advised legal counsel as well. It's crazy how, you know, just their tone switches so quickly. But exactly that. Before that, it's basically just somebody who had inherited a property from their parent, you know, and they're just sitting back collecting a check. They've never came to, when the son finally came to the house, and I heard him on the phone with somebody else, and they were asking about an issue with the house, and he said, I don't know, I've never been to this property before. I'm thinking, like, you've been collecting checks on this property for at least 12 years.
And it might still
And
be
you've
in somebody
never-
else's name.
And
Very
yeah,
well.
and,
You say
and
there
it
was-
is.
didn't you
It
say
is.
their aunt or something showed up or something, old lady or something.
Yeah, well, that's their mother, but like,
Yeah.
so now it's in a trustee to where,
So what happens?
you know,
what happens,
right, exactly, but they're collecting all the checks.
Yeah.
And Raina can probably explain this a little bit better, but there is, whether it's intentional or if it's a scam, it's used, or unintentional or used as a scam, this is used both ways. So you inherit a house and it doesn't go into that trust. The government never knows that it's changed hands, therefore you never have to get an occupancy inspection.
Yeah, exactly.
So
And
the
I dropped that
occupancy
term
inspections are designed, aside from being kind of a cash grab sometimes, in my opinion, is to keep the neighborhood on the upswing, make sure people are improving
Not
their
doing what we're
properties,
talking
Right.
about.
not doing that
Not
exactly. Yep.
slumlording.
So do I know that they did that on purpose? No, I don't know the landlord. I can't say that they did that on purpose, but there are people who do that on purpose.
Well, I will tell you that when we finally started to have maintenance issues addressed was when I said, well, you know, if we need to get the county in here and do some official inspections, we could take that route, or you guys can just fix things, you know,
yeah.
as you see fit, but we need the house livable and safe for the tenant, and then that's
Sure.
finally when they changed their tone.
Especially
so.
with kids living there.
Well, right, exactly. And then that part was baffling as well. I could go all day, so I'll bow out. But anyways, it's just funny. Nice to meet you.
Nice
it's a
meeting you as
pleasure.
well.
Throw her right in the
I
fire.
love the
Let's
work
go.
that you're doing. It's a pleasure.
And he also met an elderly lady that I brought in, Miss Marion Halley, and saw her. It's the same thing of what you said with the mother. They are really preying on our elderly because if they have anything that's been saved up and left over,
Right.
After all the paperwork they fill out, they know that they have those type of assets, and they're coming for them. They are bleeding our elderly
Right.
just dry.
Because they know it's guaranteed money.
And,
Guaranteed.
and sick and elderly, you know,
Sick and
because they
elderly.
just basically know, you know, they're purebred bullies. They know that they have people that can't defend themselves, and they just keep putting their foot on the throat, you know, and they'll squeeze you for every penny, exactly, and then
And take it through legal procedures. And by the time the family finds out about it, they're so deep into it, they just go ahead and pay it.
right, just want to be done with it altogether. Yep.
Yep.
Exactly.
Do you
Sick.
typically have? Do you have mostly case studies on your show? Do you have anybody, real estate lawyers, people like that, that can speak on some of these topics, or is it mostly folks that have been directly affected and less people who are calling the shots?
Mostly people directly affected so they can have their voice. I have had Greg Lay from Kansas City. He flew in. He did some work for me. So he has spoke on the show. A lot of attorneys I don't care for here in St. Louis.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
so
I don't think they care for you either. To be
they don't. They don't.
Yeah.
They mad I don't stepped on their toes, but I'm like, what about all the toes laying in the streets that you're stepping over? Because the
Right.
solution could have been done a long time ago. You know, no occupancy permit, no rent.
Right.
Real simple, but they're not telling that.
Yeah. A lot of
Is
people
that
just turn a blind eye.
Is that
Yeah.
kind of where you draw the line? No occupancy, no rent.
I mean,
That-
that's where
I
the
like that.
Yeah, that's where the municipality drew the line.
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
what it's
that's
supposed to be.
That's
Right.
what their law says. You know, if
Right.
it doesn't have an occupancy permit, they consider the building condemned.
Yeah.
Well, if that's the case, then that means no occupancy permit, no rent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so wild to me because there's a way that you can own property, good properties, be honest, and make a whole bunch of money too.
Oh.
Like honestly, I would argue that you would make more money rehabbing houses, fixing them up, and maybe pricing them a little bit below market rate because you keep people in there longer. They're happy, they don't want to move, and they'll pay their bills.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah,
would you rather have?
exactly.
Somebody who's not going to pay up or somebody who's going to pay up?
I mean, that's what that's my mother's scenario. Again, last time I'll harp on it, but you know, like I said, 12 plus years, every month, never late.
Never late.
And then one day, finally, she came out to me, and that situation just came to a head where I was just traumatized by it. Essentially, I thought, like, I'm picking you up. You just survived major brain surgery. You're a stage 4 cancer patient. Like, how is this even on your radar of things to worry about right now? You know, like, this is absurd. And then once I started taking inventory on the state of the house and everything else, I just thought, like, well, no way. You know, we're gonna have to do and then with some quick research again, which is what a lot of people just don't understand. But I looked around online a little bit, and I saw, okay, well, the one legal way you have to retain your rent is if you request some maintenance to be done and the landlord refuses to do it. And if it's stuff that needs to be done for the house to be healthy and habitable, for example, her most major issue is cracks in the foundation that you can literally see from the basement to outside, so we're not talking like water just leaking through, we're talking water pouring through. And for a woman with stage 4 lung cancer, that's going to create incredibly hazardous conditions. And then, and it's funny because we haven't heard anything. They're taking their time and they're drawing the process out, trying to make it as inconvenient as possible for my mother. But in the meantime, we haven't heard anything about trying to collect that delinquent rent, because they know that we're in the right now, and they know that these situations have to be addressed before you can go on with that. But again, that's a situation where I think my mother could have done this a half decade ago, but she didn't know any better, and she's just flying by the seat of her pants, a single mother raising 2 kids, and she's just trying to make sure all her bills get paid on time. And then by the time she finally realizes, that she's in the right, you're well past, like I said, she hasn't known for the past decade that she didn't have an actual lease. The last lease she had was from 2009. That blew my mind.
And that's probably most of the time
Yeah.
that happens.
Yeah.
That they just don't renew the lease. They're just like, okay, you just keep paying this amount. We won't up
Which,
it
yeah,
or
is
whatever.
an agreement and whatever it may be. That part's all perfectly
The
legal
money
from what
becomes
I
the
understand.
contract
And
at that
yeah,
point.
and that may even be more, more
But that kind
convenient
of
for the
screws the
tenant.
landlord too, yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
I-
the thing. I think that they understand that too,
Yeah.
and that's why they kind of backed up on things, because once they understood there was somebody intervening who had a little bit more time to address the situation and really put eyes on, okay, then everything's not adding up here. Then they stepped back and said, well, oh, shit, okay, we better do some things before, we end up digging ourselves a bigger hole. So,
Well, if you need some backup next time, I know somebody who's going to pull up with you.
yeah,
For sure. Normally
yeah.
I'd say bring us.
Yeah, like
but
I said, we're
That
going to
is
have to
very
link
cool
up for
what
sure.
you're doing
Yeah,
now.
no, very
Thank you.
admirable.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I just want to say an insert. I know that it sounds like you did a lot of that verbally. verbally, I will still go ahead and send them a letter in writing and say,
yeah.
hey, on this day we talked about this, this.
Yeah.
And so I'm just following up to make sure
Paper
that gets
trails,
done.
everything.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
definitely.
for anybody else out there that doesn't, that's exactly what I did with the advice of some legal counsel as well. But anything that's been in a text message, I've converted into a Word document and an email thread. So then, you have it saved there for good. So yeah, then everything's been documented accordingly. But documentation is just the most key for certain.
Absolutely.
And so many people aren't aware.
What do you got going on otherwise? We didn't expect to see you here.
I mean,
Nice to see you
Yeah.
again, by the way.
Yeah.
Before
Right,
we
I
throw
love
you
this.
right in.
This is like we planned for this to happen.
Right, I love y'all. And so when I seen y'all, I was like, "What? Oh my God, it's Monday. They're on." So I promise you, I was not trying to just like crash.
No,
out.
sure.
I
You
will
are
rob
good.
and
This time
shoot.
right now.
There's a U-Haul out there with an art piece out there, and so we were gonna try to like get it together.
He
Cool.
needed somebody to vent to.
Yeah,
no,
Usually
this
it's
is-
me
yeah.
when he's training me. He'll be venting about it. I'm like, I don't even know what the hell you're talking
Yeah,
about.
just throwing it on him. But yeah, no, this was perfect. Thanks.
Yeah.
Like I said, perfect interjection
What
right
we
here.
were talking about before you pulled up, it actually was pretty perfect that you pulled up, is that I was watching an interview recently with Nipsey Hussle where he was talking about how he thought people were going to evolve rapidly or needed to evolve rapidly emotionally to catch up with how quickly we've advanced through technology, and he thought that was going to be like the next wave is
Emotional intelligence.
emotional intelligence, exactly. But then after I was watching it, I realized I talked to a whole list of people right here for this show who were going to come on and talk about how they help the community, how the community's helped them, things. And I'm glad that we caught this early. I'm glad that we got you here now because you're another one of those people that are doing this kind of not for no reason, but because you feel like doing it. You feel
For
it's
the greater
right.
good.
Yeah,
Well, I
yeah,
have
so
to. I'm one of those people. Like I
It's
don't
your
have
I
a
duty.
think
choice.
the
Yeah,
world
yeah,
is
it's your-
becoming one of those
Completely
people,
understand
though.
that.
Because as much bickering as people do, I think people often think that they're trying to help. Like maybe the way that they go about it is not always the best way. If it's arguing on social media or arguing in the streets, wherever. But people think that what's in their head is right, and they want to put it onto somebody else. And I think that we're trending towards more and more people running nonprofits, more and more people getting paid off of nonprofits, making that their job, their career, rather than a stepping stone.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked to so many people. I didn't even finish our list. Our own Tweezy right behind us was even talking about joining or opening up a nonprofit. So that's a dream interview for us, for sure.
Yeah,
As much as we
no doubt.
much as we mention his name on
Get
the
him
show,
from behind the scenes.
we're gonna
for
have to get
surely.
him out from behind the scenes. But yeah, so it was like perfect timing for you to pull up because you're doing what we were just talking about. You're living it
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a choice. This isn't an option. I didn't have heat. I paid $1,400. The court doubled it to $2,800. I lost $63,000 of physical cash money just in the rent alone. That does not include what I paid for all the attorneys, et cetera, et cetera. And my notice of eviction was only 18 hours. All this is all on the court record. Everyone ignored it. I have been to the highest courts. My judge on that case was disqualified. I mean, there was so many legal arguments of how my judgments aren't even legal, and everybody just walked away. So back to the lawyers and why I don't talk to them, because those would have been the lawyers that should have helped and assisted me and the other people that I represent.
It takes a little bit of effort on their part. That's why they walk away.
Yeah, there's probably no kickback.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to say, when you talk about doing housing and putting money in, that's the key. You talking about doing an avenue that nobody else is even talking about because the effort is actually putting the money in. When you're talking about slumlords, they are making the money because there's no money being put in except for the purchase of the
Yeah.
property. There's never any maintenance. There's never anything. So that's how they make their money, by not ever investing anything in. And when the property catches fire, they get paid from that,
Yeah.
and then they
Right.
just
The
build.
insurance.
You just
Right.
walk.
Yeah, you just walk. So I always try to tell people who have integrity, do not give people who don't have integrity the same level of standard. You can't. They don't have integrity. You do. So you have to completely look at it from almost like an inverted mirror, because what you tell yourself or what you would do, that's what they tell themselves or what they wouldn't do.
It's two different sets of standards you're operating on.
Right. One has none.
Right.
So I'm gonna buy property. That's gonna happen. And actually, I just finished a book of a few that I've read today. But I'm convinced that if I want to work and buy and sell houses for other people, I can't be messing with too much maintenance, things of that nature. So the only way to get around that is to have good houses, rehabbed houses, good tenants that want to live there for 2 or 3 years at a time. That's the only way that I'm going to be able to own 7 to 10 houses is the goal. and also be able to go about my day job. So somebody's going to catch me if I'm a slumlord. You see me just about everywhere. You can pull up at Overtime. You can find me in my office. People know where I live. Like, I can't really hide in St. Louis, so that's going to be my option is just to make nice houses, find nice people to rent them, and come to some sort of agreement where everybody's happy.
Yeah.
And potentially a quality, property management company.
Yeah.
If you get things
They
going big
recommend
enough.
if you get above 10 to get a property
Yeah.
management company, and that would be nice. But that also starts with building a nice home. There's ways that you can borrow money and build a nice home for someone and collect money on the back end with less money down than paying cash like some of these slumlords are doing. I mean,
Right.
it's an option, so it's always kind of funny to me where I'm like, man, I don't know. You might be making money, but it's bad business. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, at
it's
the end of
it's
the day,
not a
I'm just
long-term,
I'm
not a
just a
long-term
karma guy.
investment.
and those
I think
people
you're
who
gonna
get behind on the maintenance, like it
Dude.
probably usually bites them in the ass more
Yeah.
times than
Well,
we
of
know.
course.
It
I
bites
mean,
them
look
in
at
the
this
ass.
exact scenario with my mother. They're trying to drag everything
Yeah.
out, and it's like pulling teeth to get anything done because they know that every single
don't
cent
have
they
any
put
money,
in, they're
yeah.
not going to get out.
Yeah.
you
And most
know?
of the maintenance people, they don't have teeth either. Be like one Wiggle Joe. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So when you talk,
Yep.
I had a guy. I had a guy who did all of our maintenance. We lived over at Graveway and Christie, and this guy was so funny. He was supposed to come over at 3:00 one day, so I took off work early, and he didn't show up. And then he showed up at like 4:45 in the morning, knocking on my door, and was like, "Hey man, like I know I'm early. Are you guys aren't up right now? I'm guessing." I was like, "No, no." And,
has you got sleep and slobber.
and,
Like, no.
and it was like
Sun's
something.
not up,
it was
bro.
something like really unimportant. Like it was like my stove or something like that. You know, like it wasn't anything. It wasn't anything essential or anything. But I was like, no, man, you gotta like call me back. You know, and you can't just show up at 4 in the morning. And he was like racing on something. I mean, he was like, I know I'm early, but you know,
Yeah.
I was up early. You know,
Hey, we
and
should
I-
hire him, man. He
Like,
sounds
nah,
like he
you
likes to
haven't
get
gone to
stuff
sleep yet,
done,
bud.
bro.
Yeah, this guy was hilarious. Though.
Hey, I called
when he
this-
did come over, we would sit and hang out
I
for a while.
called this episode when we started. I called it Sober October Part 1. So we're doing a Sober October challenge. No alcohol, and we're doing 31 workouts in 31 days.
Ooh.
So yeah, a little different, change of pace. I mean, I'm usually in the gym about 3 days a week, but I'm also drinking about 5 or 6 days a week. So I kind of flipped. How are you guys doing with that?
Yo, I was going to say,
Good.
at the volleyball tournament, it was actually, it just feels like automatic when you're at a fundraiser type thing like that, when there's an open bar and that's what your donation has gone towards. You at least have one or two,
Sure.
And getting past that initial temptation was, as rough as you would think it would be. But at the end of the day, I was like, wow, that was actually pretty refreshing. Why do I drink
How nice
on
was
those
it going
days?
home and
Right.
not being like,
I'm not
that
even
crossed
lying.
the line? I'm not
I'm
sure.
not even lying. As soon as I got in my car, I was like, "Am I okay to drive?" And I'm like, "You didn't even drink, you fucking idiot." You know.
Well, you know what happens is like
It was
I
just
can't
like
tell you
secondhand.
how many times like you and I will do something like that, and I'll be with you, or I'll be with both of you. I'll be like, man, I'm fine, and like Paige will be freaking out, and then when I get home, and like I'm looking at somebody completely sober, I'm like, fucked up.
What you mean to say is, good thing I didn't drive home.
Yeah.
Wink.
Right.
Yeah. But
Exactly.
no,
No,
it
it-
has
it
been
does feel
refreshing.
good,
That was
yeah.
the first weekend, and there was a bit of temptation, like I was telling you over the weekend. Yeah,
made it,
was
though.
good. Yeah. I think the first weekend's the toughest, honestly. So
I
knock on
feel
wood.
fine. Like I just feel kind of bored. I feel
Yeah.
exactly the same. I just kind of like sitting on my deck and having a drink, letting the dog run around. I cooked the other night, and I'm like, man, this is kind of boring
that's
doing it sober.
That's why I
you know?
texted. I
I
think
But you'll
have the
find
music
something else to
cranking.
put into it. We're still 5 days in.
Right.
You know.
But I think I
Yeah.
texted you because that's exactly what I do. Like, with the baby and everything else going on, I don't really have a night where I can just tie one off ever anyways, but it's that
But
like
just have a drink at the end
it's
of the day.
just that
Exactly.
that little nightcap, and even that is like it's refreshing waking up in the morning and having not had a nightcap or just not having had those one or two. I'm
and
curious
if
to
you
see
do
how
the
it's going
math
to look
on the
in 31
calories that you're
days.
going to save by the
Exactly.
end of the month,
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, and you've been doing a good job with the workouts that you put up.
Yeah.
I hope that people are following along. I was just telling Nicole, I feel bad that I haven't done any of them
I was just gonna ask that, but that's
But
all right. I've gotten some decent feedback
Man,
so
I
far.
love
I've had
lifting weights when the weather gets cold.
Yeah,
I feel
I dig
better.
that.
You eat bigger. I
You're
feel
right,
stronger.
man.
It's
Yeah.
not hot in the gym. I've just been really liking it, so I'm kind of stacking the workouts that you've been putting on our Facebook page, just in case I get bored over there.
Well, just
I'm gonna,
wait, too.
I'm
This
gonna
is-
get
You're,
sick of
you're
This
it.
is
right
the
about the eating.
preliminary
It's
period.
almost like you layer up a little bit.
Yeah.
For
It's-
sure. It's
it's-
bulk
yeah,
season
yeah,
right
it
now.
is.
Absolutely.
Raffy season is what
What
But
do
they
they
call
call
you'll
that
see
when you
that
sleep
next
through the
week.
winter.
it. Yeah.
Hibernation.
Hibernations, yeah, it's almost
Yeah.
like hibernation
I mean, it
season,
really
exactly.
is. This is a time that most guys, like physique-wise, will bulk up and stuff. Plus, they're not going to have as much time to have their shirts off outside, you know. So,
Thank
really,
goodness.
that is the. Yeah, with that tournament we were playing, and there was a guy with his shirt off, and I almost had to take mine off just out of principle. But I was like,
I was very
this
surprised
guy's
you did
nuts,
it.
man.
Corey's like Tupac. You usually won't catch him with a shirt.
I hate wearing shirts. We just got polos, or like official Sons of St. Louis polos, and the first thing I did was tear the sleeves off of mine. 'Cause I feel constricted
Me
when I'm
too.
in shirts.
I
That's
hate
all it
sleeves.
is, you know,
I'm
right?
with you on
yeah.
that. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Hey, another thing we do on this show is wins since our last episode. So is there anything that you've accomplished in your personal life or work in the last 2 weeks that you're proud of?
Yeah, that case I did in Springfield. So after I filed the defense with all the fees that they inserted, the lawyer suddenly became sick, and court was called off.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna take that as a victory
As a
because you
victory,
know they
yeah.
come in kicking tennis ass
Oh,
all day,
yeah.
but all
Right.
of a sudden, he's
Yeah.
sick.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
So I'll
love
take that as a victory.
Absolutely.
good.
Man, you're like all over the state. Rolla, Springfield, St. Louis. It doesn't matter. KC.
Yeah, as long as the tenant calls me and they're willing to go through their paperwork and whatever they say, they can furnish what they say, I'm good with them. It's, if you can't produce what you've told me, you ain't gonna get me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, then, you know, like I was saying about documentation, you know, at that stage, then what can you really do for them anyways
Yeah.
if they don't want to work for themselves, you know, and at least get things
I
together.
think the way Raina put it was you got to learn the difference between people who need help and those who won't help themselves. Is that what you said?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. You know, if,
That's a good way to put it.
you know, people want help, but they want to just dump it on you. Nah,
Yeah.
baby, we ain't here to be dumped on. We here to help you
you.
break the barriers of what has you trapped. But you got your own the road to travel as
You got to
well.
be wanting to do the right things.
Help
yeah,
help
you can't be
yourself
on the
type
back
of
deck
thing.
having a drink and we
Right.
over here like, okay,
Yeah.
so
Right.
tomorrow we gonna call here and no, you gonna be right
That way
here.
you don't. Otherwise, you don't really know where the problem's at. Right?
and you don't
Yeah.
even appreciate what's being done.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
Yes.
exactly.
Yes. The
Exactly.
appreciation.
The
The appreciation
appreciation.
and
That's
gratitude. Yeah.
that's the
That's
concept.
what gets people to change. All in all, you know, somebody reaching out, maybe helping them, but you have to have that anxiety or worry that nobody is going to come and
Exactly.
help you out,
That's the
know?
concept where I say like discipline is the most concentrated form of love.
Yeah.
I think I won't go way off kilter here, but I think that's something our last generation lost because all of a sudden, like, you know, disciplining your kids wrote some barrier of like child abuse, which is insane because
Yeah.
not disciplining your kids is the purest form of child abuse. But I've always explained to Hannah, sometimes we'll pull up on the side of the road and there will be somebody there waiting for $1 or whatever, and you know, I mean, on occasion, whatever, but what I explained to her is like, if you keep giving this guy $1, he'll come back here every day because he'll know he's got somewhere to go get $1 and he'll never help himself.
Yeah.
So that's the type of situation, you know. I mean, that's a little more personable, but it's
Yeah.
just that type of thing. If they don't want to help themselves, then, you know, you trying to help them is only going to get so
Yeah.
far anyways. So, yeah.
I think it's really unique how when you said the word discipline, you knew to cut it off. You know, discipline and obedience, I talked about this on my show. Just saying those two words, discipline and obedience, will clear out a whole room. And I noticed as soon as you said, you were like, oh, I don't want to go off kill. I don't want to go off kill. Yeah, it's like we almost cuss people out by saying the words discipline
Well,
and
right.
obedience to people.
Yeah.
Like they
Yeah.
really feel offended.
Yeah.
Like we're not supposed to
They
utilize
feel
that.
so
Yeah.
entitled they shouldn't have to be
Yeah.
disciplined or
More so, my thing was not going off kilters, like, because I always joke around and say that we're like 80s parents. Like we got 2 fresh newborns, and mine, you know, she plays in the dirt, she does whatever, you know, roughhouse, all that stuff, and it's like, I think somebody told me not too long ago, we had her at a party one time, and it was like last fall, and there were people inside saying, "Can you believe they have this baby outside right now at this party?" And I was like, I can't believe there are people who would be commenting
Yeah.
on that. Like, how miserable is your life that you want to take time out of enjoying this party to comment on my parenting skills? And then
But
I
even
thought
if it
those
wa-
are the type of people whose
even if it
parents
was
never,
December.
whooped them or even put them in their
Yeah.
place verbally. You know,
Yeah.
like, mind your own business. If everybody would just stay in their own lane. But
They would have
discipline
a
is a
better
part
life.
of staying in your own lane. You know, if you're not taught that, then you're crossing lanes, and that's when we get everything mixed up.
What do you got?
Oh
You're
man.
working hard, buddy.
Just being here today is a win. I took a big dub or a loss today.
Big dump.
A big dump. Yeah. I took a big loss today. So
That's not what I asked. So.
But yeah, being
Did
here
you learn a
today-
That's all
lesson
you
from
got?
it?
Yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah,
did.
it's
Then
not
it
a
wasn't a
loss.
loss.
Yeah.
That's true. No, he told me
The
how
win
much
would've
it
been
was.
better.
It was
Lessons,
a
not
loss.
losses.
The win would have been.
We're gonna take
nice.
Colin out for cocktails as soon as this month is over. He had a rough day
Yo, that
today.
music video shoot. I'm ready. I'm already ready.
The first, yeah, and now
Well, the second, right?
no, it's I think it's the first. Yeah,
Well,
it says right here on the sticky note, bro.
Sunday's the second.
Oh, perfect.
Paintball November 1st.
Alright,
No,
cool, yeah,
Halloween's on a
that's-
Saturday this year, bro. Don't screw with me. I got my calendar tight.
The Halloween is going to be the final culmination. That's going to be the most.
I'm waiting until
difficult.
midnight, man. I'm not having a
Waiting
beer.
for the trick or treaters. I always have, one or two just hanging out. Have my candy while they're having theirs.
I'm
But
not even
that'll
gonna
be a
do
good
that.
test.
You got any W's? What do you got?
Yeah, man. Man, I was just thinking. Well, I mean, first of all, pedal the cause. I just wanted to comment how well that went all the way around. I
Sure.
think.
Probably raised a few grand between the three of us.
Yeah, and that was the one thing that I was a little bit concerned about going in, is because I honestly forgot about that aspect. I was so focused on trying to incorporate my mom in it, and then just making sure that I had everything with like all of us situated, just all of the organizational things. We had a couple more people that rode with us. Brian Herr came into town, of course. Shouts out Brian. We'll see if he listens. But yeah, first of all, getting up that Sunday and riding that first 30 miles after our festivities Saturday was
Golf
I
tournament for
literally
charity
drank
the
as
day
much Saturday
before.
as I rode Sunday, so that was a victory in itself. And then actually knocking out that 100 miles, I'm gonna give myself a pat on the back because that was pretty wicked. Yeah.
You know what?
Thank you,
I'll
thank
pat
you,
you on the
thank
back too, because I talked a lot of shit the day before.
Yeah, you did. You
I
talked a
did.
lot of shit.
I did, and I was sitting there I was like, this dude's not gonna get up and do the
Yep.
100 miles he promised,
Yep.
and he did.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I know that you were trying to catching me slipping, because I even sat here and said, well, my goal's 100, 60 would be ideal-ish, and then you were still talking mad noise, so I had to go ahead and just put that work in for you, just to, so you know what's
You did
good.
start
But-
backpedaling a little bit.
Well, I mean, like I said, 100 would have been ideal, but I even mentioned after the Maddie Faye tournament, or after the Denny Faye tournament, and especially after seeing Maddie 4 separate occasions on the golf course, because every time you pass Maddie, you got to have a cocktail and say what's up. Yeah, so I
I
just
wasn't
knew all
trying
of
to
that.
catch you slipping. I was holding you accountable.
Yeah.
He was.
Oh, I
and
did.
you know what? You can go
No, I
ahead and
did.
pat me on the back because I was talking all shit when he was at 90 and wanted to stop.
This is true.
If you remember that,
This
he
is
was going to
true.
stop at
And-
90 miles, bro.
Well, I didn't want to stop. I physically
Yeah.
couldn't ride anymore because my bike tire
Flat
popped.
tire,
But
yep.
then I hopped on the last 10 on a little stationary
That was
bike.
so we were headed
But
out to
that-
801.
Yo, your suggestion about going Facebook Live, though, I guarantee that doubled my funds raised.
That
So,
pushed
and
you
that's
right
what I
over.
wanted to say, because I kind of forgot about the fundraising aspect. Just
you were just doing it for the
incorporating
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Right? I just wanted to raise awareness more than anything, but I forgot about raising funds in the
Yeah.
process. So then it was like a blitz that led, just that Sunday. And
She did
but
say
that
that's
was,
how it happened, though.
Yeah, exactly. She
Yeah.
did. Yeah. So that was a good. I mean, I just felt like that all came together perfectly.
Okay, so to
Cool.
bring
Yeah.
everybody up to speed, if you are listening or watching, Corey's at 86 miles road,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm on my way to 801 Chop House. So we are living two completely different lives. I did bike 40 miles in one shot.
Yeah.
But
Which props as well.
So yeah, we're out for celebratory steaks, and drinks, and you were headed out to do your 14. You made it 4 miles and you got a flat tire.
Yeah.
And you said that you were done, and I'm like, nope, that can't happen. You need to go live right now. Donations start pouring in.
Yeah.
Did
This
you
is
walk
true.
your bike all the way home?
No, Hannah picked me up,
She
fortunately.
came and
that
got
was
you.
a solid silver lining because it monsooned as soon as she picked me up. Yeah, so that was
started
that was clutch as
raining,
well.
and I was so happy that you took my advice and went ahead and did those last 10 miles on the fan bike.
Yeah, I
'cause
couldn't
you
do it.
would've-
I was
man,
sitting there, and my legs were like legitimately jittering, and I was like, I'm not going to be able to sleep until I knock this out.
You would have felt so bad just stopping at 90. If
And
you
I'm
were
gonna
going
be
to stop
honest-
at 90, you should have just stopped at 50.
I'm gonna be honest. I think it was a bit more than 10 added on because I couldn't I had to kind of just calculate off the top of my head. Well, 10 miles an hour, I'll go for about an hour. But I was on a fly bike where you're incorporating
Cranking
the
it.
arms and cranking
Yep.
everything out simultaneously. So yeah, I think I exerted myself a little more than an actual 10
I'm glad
miles.
that you finished that because
yeah.
you would have been upset if you didn't.
No, that was clutch. And I wanted to, so that's just my final segue, but that was a W because I thought, okay, this is going to be great to incorporate things like this for the Wii Golf Tournament because it'll be a solid chance to have people kind of check in, you know, when we're able to figure out the just the live feed and with Twitch or whatever else is going on. I don't know. I think there's a lot of upside potential here for this whole
Yeah,
We
we didn't
Golf
even
thing.
cover we didn't even cover
I
We
think
Golf
the sky's
today.
the limit.
We're gonna make some decisions on that behind the scenes. I know some people are gonna feel left out, but the people who are asking me about We Golf are the ones that listen to the show. So they're listening to the show. I think they get first crack at the fundraiser.
Yeah, everybody
We'll sell the
listen up.
remaining tickets. That's gonna be November 15th. And then we're going to do a
Perfect.
show November 16th. That'll be my birthday. And we'll cut a big old check for charity. So it'll be an awesome birthday.
Yeah, that'll be solid.
Dude, my wins, I think, is just what we talked about, what we opened the show with, is I watched that interview with just being around more mindful, emotionally intelligent people. Raina pulled up, perfect example.
I mean, what's up, universe?
Spoke to Kayleen, Corey, other Corey. Tweezy's ready to get in. We're going to have him on the show, I'm certain. Haley, too bad Pepe didn't make it today because he is a big community guy. I know something came up with him, but yeah, other than that, man, I'm kind of just stacking business for next year. I think that I'm going to have a better November and December this year than I will October. But either way, I got a lot of people who have hit me up already this month that want to know what they can do now to buy houses next year, which is pretty much the exact verbiage I want to hear out of folks because that means you're serious and you're getting yourself prepared.
And before you know it,
bingo.
it's time.
Before you know it, hey, everybody keeps saying, what do we
Yeah.
keep talking about? Everybody keeps saying they just can't wait for 2020 to be over.
And it's on the way.
Is your life just
So
going to be
everybody
better just
better
because
put
the
up or
year's
shut
over?
up,
Raina,
as
is your
Cuzzy
life
said.
going to be any
Put up or
easier
shut up.
in 3 months?
No, I'm trying to see if a new economy is going to appear, like face masks.
Yeah, right. I dig that as well.
Oh, you mean like an industry?
Yeah, and that's what I believe that we can do, an industry just like that of removing judgments. I believe we can create an industry just like that and turn them right over. 'Cause what's the argument? They're illegal, they're condemned, here's the judgment. Let's
Right.
get
Exactly.
Right,
and that
right.
just comes with a little bit of empathy. Here's somebody out. Help somebody out. You'll be good to go.
it. Yes.
I think that's our time.
My
I'm so
final
happy
wrap
that
up,
you stopped
real
in.
quick. I just want to say you just embodied the law of attraction. So thanks for showing out. This was, I mean, you know, this is what I keep reiterating that Sons of
Nice
St.
to meet
Louis is
you.
all about. So
Great to meet you.
for you to pull up and we just made a whole show out of it
I
like
hope,
it was
I
planned.
hope we
that
didn't
was
take
awesome.
up too much of your time. I know you had an agenda tonight.
No, you're fine. I think the artist is still out there napping, so it's all good. Like she literally fell asleep in Lowe's. So
That's
I'm
a
like,
perfect-
That's the artist life,
That's
you know.
a perfect
just let
time
it
to
rip.
cut this off. What do we got in 2 weeks? Oh yeah, Kayleen with Turning the Page. So
Yeah.
that'll be awesome. Brand new charity. It'll be their first formal interview. They haven't done a ton of marketing. I'm excited to see what they have, man. They're moving really, really
And
fast.
Jay Krause, Kayleen's significant other, says he's going to show up to the dojo, so I'm going to shout him out on here as
Okay,
well.
yeah.
Hold
See
him
if he
accountable.
listens.
Yeah.
Hold him accountable. Love it.
Mhm.
Cool. That was an awesome show, guys. I'm really glad we did this.
Yeah, for sure.
Down, out, down, out.
That's it, buddy.
All right.